Hello and welcome back to the Little Craft House. Today I thought we would do another colour mix tutorial. So we will be creating some custom colours using some of the existing colours from the Sculpey Souffle range. I like to create my own custom colours sometimes just to give me a bit of variety in colours to use so they're not all just one straight from the pack. If you've ever worked with Sculpey Souffle before, you'll know that it has that beautiful matte finish along with a really nice texture as well. So that's why I thought we would use that range today to create these custom colours. Over the past year or so, I've created a couple of different colour mix tutorials, but I'll go through the basics with you again just in case you haven't seen my tutorials before. So with all my base colours, I have chopped them up, conditioned them, and then I've rolled them through the pasta machine on the thickest setting. Then for each individual portion, I like to use a shape cutter. So I'm just using a circle one today. Most of my recipes involve a full portion or a half portion. So as long as your shape is a symmetrical shape, that is the easiest one to use for getting those half pieces. If your recipes are one-to-one, it really doesn't matter what shape you use, as long as it's the same shape for each portion. By having even portions, it means that we can replicate the colour time and time again and have the same result. So whilst I've been chatting, you've been watching me portion out all of the white, which in the Sculpey Souffle range is called Igloo. So we're going to use quite a bit of white today, so I thought I would just get that one done first, and then we're going to move on to the colours. So in total, we're going to be using 10 different colours and we're going to be creating 7 recipes. So this one here is the Souffle Fiji. So I'm just going to cut a piece of this off. And the other colours that we will be using are Cowboy, Canary, Latte, this beautiful purple, which is turnip, racing green, which is one of the new ones. We've got some mandarin, bluestone, cherry pie, and lastly pumpkin. Now some of these colours we're only going to use for one recipe and some of the others we'll be using a few of, so I may just need to adjust my quantities as I go. So I'm going to start by getting each one of these conditioned, and then I'm going to pop them through the pasta machine to get them all the same thickness as that white is. And now they're all the same thickness, I will use my shape cutter again to cut out each of the portions of these colours. So as we go along, I will be recording each of the recipes on some recipe cards that I've made. So I had these ones made and printed, and we have them available in our store. However, you might just want to record it on the back of some old business cards or just make a recipe card similar for yourselves. Once each colour is mixed, I'll then take a little sample, make a little sample chip, and I'll later bake that up and keep it on the card for future reference. Okay, so let's get started with our first recipe. So for this one, we're going to take just a half portion of cherry pie. So I'm just going to cut my circle in half. We're also going to use a half portion of the latte. And then we're going to mix that with 5 portions of white. So when it comes to mixing, you can either mix by hand or by roller. My choice is, however, the pasta machine, as I find that just makes it so much quicker and so much easier. So I'll combine these together, use my roller just to get them down to a reasonable thickness, and then I'll pop it through the pasta machine to get the colours all blended up nicely. I like to put the pasta machine on the thinner settings. I find that this helps to break down the colour and mix it in quicker. As I do each pass and then fold my clay in half, I try to keep the fold marks to the side. This helps to push out any air and helps to avoid air getting trapped within. Sometimes you'll see me do multiple folds. That's because I like to tuck those end pieces in so that they also get mixed. The colours get mixed in. Otherwise, I find that the edges end up just being the solid colour and isn't actually mixed in nicely. And so how many passes through the machine or how many rolls with your roller will depend on how many colours you're mixing and how thick your clay is. As you can see, this time is taking me a little bit of time, quite a few passes through the machine, but we do want to make sure that it is mixed up properly, because there would be nothing worse than using your new clay colours and not having it mixed properly. So there we go, that is a beautiful pink that we've created here. So I'm just going to take that sample chip and I will bake that up afterwards and permanently glue it on my card. But for now, I'm just going to pop it on the top raw whilst I record down the colours, just so I know which card it matches with. Okay, next up we have 1 portion of cherry pie, 1 portion of turnip, 1 of white, and 2 of mandarin. I'm going to mix all these ones up together. And I really love this colour, so I can't wait to show you this one. So I'm absolutely terrible with colour names, but I would say that this is like a magenta colour, really beautiful, and I'm going to be using this colour quite a bit. So I'm cut myself a little sample colour there, and then I'll pop this one to the side, and then we'll write down the recipe. So I'm not sure if I mentioned, but next week's tutorial, the projects I've got in mind are going to be using these colours. So if you'd like some inspiration on how to use these colours, make sure that you pop back next week and check out that tutorial. Okay, our third recipe also uses cherry pie. This will be the last recipe using cherry pie today. So we've got 1 portion of the cherry pie, 1 of mandarin, and 1 of canary. And this one mixes up to be a beautiful coral orange colour. So this one's really pretty as well. So once again, we're just going to do the sampler and I'll write down the recipe for you. Okay, so our next recipe is very simple, and I think I have shared this before in one of my other colour mix tutorials, but it creates such a beautiful colour. So again, it's a 1-to-1 recipe, but I'm just going to triple it because otherwise I won't have enough clay to actually use. So it's 1 portion of turnip to 1 portion of white, and this creates a beautiful purple colour. So within the polymer clay industry, a lot of artists have a long-standing joke about how when we mix our scraps up to create new colour mixes, new colour blends, we quite often end up with ugly purple colour mixes. It probably has something to do with the fact that we use a lot of pinks, purples, blues in jewellery making, and so quite often you end up with ugly purple mixes once you blend them together. This colour, however, is a really nice purple, so I like to have this recipe on hand. I've used it quite a bit because it just is a beautiful purple colour that can be replicated time and time again, and it's much more usable than the horrible grey purple colours that we end up with when we mix our scrap clays together. So our colour palette really needed a nice green to go along with the other colours. So super simple mix of 1 portion racing green to 1 portion of the canary yellow. Again, I have just doubled the portions to give me a usable amount of clay. And this creates a beautiful spring green colour, really nice. It's very similar to the bright green pearl in the Primo range, but obviously without the pearl effect to it. So our second last colour for the day is a combination of 1 part canary yellow to 1 part pumpkin and 3 parts white. And I really like this colour because it's not quite yellow, not quite orange. I suppose I would consider it in part of the mustard family, maybe, like a pastel mustard. I don't know, that's a really bad description. But it's a nice colour and it matches our palette well. So it's in there with our palette for the day. Okay, so our very last colour for the day, and this one is one of my faves. They're all my faves, really. I really like all of these colours. This one is 2 parts of Fiji to 1 part bluestone, and this creates a really nice blue. And once again, I am just going to double those portions just so that I've got enough usable clay for my project. So that one's a really nice one. Again, I'm really bad with colours. Would we call this seafoam? I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you've got suggestions for colour names for all of my colours, because I'm really bad at naming colours. So I present to you our colour palette collection for the day. How amazing do all these colours look? They complement each other beautifully, so when they're used together they will look amazing. There is also lots of smaller combinations within these colours that will also complement each other and go nicely together if I don't want to use them all in the one project. So I am absolutely thrilled with how all these colours turned out, and as I mentioned earlier, I have a project in mind for using them next week, so please make sure that you come back and check out next week's tutorial and you'll see how I plan on using them. So I'd just like to thank you guys for joining me today whilst I mixed up all of these colours. Hopefully you love them as much as I do, and you've got all those base colours available to you so that you can mix these colours up for yourself as well. So thank you once again for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks again. Bye.